particles, then we could not extend that view on a macroscopic scale, which meant inevitably that human behavior was not 100% predictable. Therefore, the mechanistic view of the human mind, which Mr. Catran...
The human mind does not exist, as you use the term.
Then
the human is a behaving organism, right? That's quite a difference.
The human organism, even considered as a reflex box, its behavior is not 100% predictable. The other misunderstanding upon which I think he bases one of his other ideas, that is that there is no such thing as intelligence, and that the human being just behaves like any other organism, only perhaps on a slightly more complex level. He draws from Skinnerian behaviorism. I have read Skinner, and I think that Mr. Skinner's work is excellent as a psychotherapeutic tool. However, even Skinner admits that the one assumption that all behaviorists make, that of treating the mind as a black box, therefore ignoring what's going on in the brain.
Environment. No, the brain and mind refer to the same thing. The brain is just a euphemism for mind.
Yes, they refer to the brain,
right,
that organism, as the black box for purposes of making their system work, and work it does on a macroscopic level. But they do not say that the brain is synonymous in all aspects with the black box. In other words, it can be disregarded. They only disregard it in order for their paradigm of behavior to work in a therapeutic mode. But they do not say the brain is nothing but a black box and there is really nothing more going on
there.
I
didn't say that either.
Response.
Yes, I never said that Skinner said that. And no, I don't use the term black box.
No,
that's much too much too simple.
Black box.
But may I ask you a question? May I ask you a question?
Sure.
What else could it be? What do you think it could be? Do you think there's some spiritual, smoky, ethereal substance?
No.
What else could it be other than physical? Can you come up with
physical, like other physical phenomena, clearly, and biological
all right,
phenomena.
So then you're buying the mechanist theory.
No, I'm not buying the mechanist theory.
I see.
I'm buying the theory that the brain is an organ in the body.
Yes.
And it performs certain functions.
And
however,
it's totally physical, isn't it? And tangible.
Sure,
and measurable and observable and analyzable.
But that does not mean that it is 100% predictable and that all of its functions work in a totally predictable fashion. If it were so, every human being would, given a certain set of stimuli, would respond identically, which they won't.
No, for other reasons, because human beings differ from each other. That's why that wouldn't work. But you're misquoting and misusing Heisenberg. Heisenberg's main point, never mind the predictability end of his what he had to say, but the fact that the observer always affects the observed, the experiment. You're part of it. When you light up an experiment, you've changed the phenomena that you're observing. I agree to that. That's totally correct. Yes, very much so. How does that apply here?
It applies because what Heisenberg said had the immediate implication of saying the mechanistic paradigm obviously had a fallacy.
No, it couldn't have, because you just said that nothing could be non-mechanical, didn't you?
I never said that. I never said that.
Well, what else could there be in the universe besides stuff? Everything is made of tangible, material stuff. There's no such thing as a state of nothing.
But the goal...
Otherwise, what are we talking about?
But the goal of the mechanistic paradigm, especially its philosophical...
You keep saying mechanistic paradigm. That doesn't mean anything. It's a very cute phrase, but you do buy it. But there's no such thing as a state of nothing. There can't be. Everything is a tangible mechanism. Even energy is made up of matter and mass. Einstein said so, to quote another physicist.
Basically, the mechanistic view of the universe...
Well, there is no other view of the universe.
Well, there's certainly...
Well, name one. Name one.
Spiritualist...
Well, name one.
A spiritualist view of the universe.
Are you a spiritualist?
No, I'm not.
Well, do you buy spiritualism? The spiritualist view? Well, then what are we talking about?
You asked me to name another view, so
yes, but I'm talking about another scientific view.
Caller? Okay, thank you very much. It seems to me that we have a problem, and the problem we have is this. You define terms in a very specific way. When someone disputes someone does not dispute the definition, but suggests that there may be others, what I hear from you is, well, do you believe it? If you do not, therefore, my view must be correct, and there can be no other.
No, I'm saying that I have the feeling that she does agree with the mechanist view of the universe, because she says there cannot be any other views. That's
No,
what
she said
I feel
that there were
she has
other
to agree
views.
with me.
No, she does
Okay,
not.
fine. There were other views.
The caller cited the spiritualist. You then said, all right, do you believe in
I'm
it?
talking about science.
You didn't say that. You did
Yes.
not say that. What you said was, are there any other views? That was the totality of your
All right,
statement,
okay.
and her answer
All right,
held.
of course.
So therefore, if we're going to talk about the thing, we either have to agree on definitions, or we have to simply agree to disagree.
You're right. So
Otherwise,
let's talk
we're gonna
about
find ourselves in the back of the neck.
scientific views of the universe.
All
Other
right,
scientific theories.
scientific
Well, isn't
theories.
this a science show?
That's
Spiritualism
one of the
involved?
things.
Okay, all
It
right.
has been.
Okay.
One of the things. We're variable. All right, let's go back to the phones. Hour 25, you're on the radio. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question and an observation, Mr. Catran.
Go ahead.
Now, the cornerstone of all really good science is objectivity, of course.
Right.
And when person A says that there is only one select group of people who are best qualified to run the country and the world, which is Group B, and person A happens to belong to Group B, doesn't that kind of compromise objectivity a little bit?
No, it doesn't, because the pilot of a commercial airliner is sitting up there in the front seat because of his qualifications. He's not elected by the passengers. We appoint people to do specific jobs more efficiently because they're qualified. All I'm saying is that technical people, engineers, architects, city planners, people of that sort, are more qualified to operate our country than the politicians, lawyers, and economists.
People like yourself.
I'm not calling them. No, I'm not of that ilk. I'm not that good a scientist.
All right. And the observation, Mr. Catran, if I'm correct, posits that there is no creativity and there is no intelligence. This sort of reminds me of the argument stated that there are no such things as women's orgasms. And
No, there's no relationship to that.
to prove this,
argument.
the person says that I've had sex with 40 women and they've never had orgasms.
Right.
Seems a similar thing to me.
No, if you look the word, I thought it was very interesting to look the word animism up in the dictionary, Webster's, the big Second International, and it really explains it. I think what we're all doing when we attribute intelligence and thinking and creativity to man, we're indulging in the sin of animism, which means actually implying that there is life inside of an inanimate object. And that's what it is. It's a form of animism. That doesn't exist.
Where does the
Technically, that's
life
being
in your
demonstrated.
body? Where does the life in your body? Where can you point to some place in your body? Say, aha, there's where the life is. Can you do that?
No, there is no such place in the
Okay,
body.
but yet you are sitting there, you are breathing, you are respirating, your blood is going, you're talking into the radio, you're being angry, things are
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, I'm a mechanism.
And so how is that going on?
Am I not a mechanism? Am I not a
I didn't
functioning
say
machine?
Of course,
Well, then
you are.
you
but
agree.
there-
That's all we're saying. That's what
but the
discussion's
machine that
about.
you are does certain things, and one of the things
Yes,
that
it
it does
does.
is live, and the other thing that it does is think. You
Well-
are a thinking machine.
Well, not really. We're not thinking as not in the sense that you're
Thinking
using the
in
word.
that if A, if B, you put them together
No,
and
you're-
you imply C.
Thinking,
that's
thinking
what,
is talking to yourself and using your visual. Yes, it's a muscular activity, very covert and not very obvious.
But it doesn't
does
matter.
exist.
But it doesn't matter that it's a muscular activity. It
Yes,
doesn't
it does.
matter
It
because
does.
the result is the same. No matter what it is, the result is the same. You can solve the problem. You can imply that third fact. It doesn't matter that you're subvocalizing.
Well, it does matter. For the purpose of this discussion, it does matter.
No.
Yes, it does, because the terminology that the life in space boys are using, as I said before, is approximately 50 years out of date. They have a wrong concept. They
If we find aliens who can subvocalize, are they okay then?
no, you won't find aliens who could subvocalize.
How do you
because they'll
say
be-
that?
Because-
Why do you say that?
Because they're living in another context. Whoever, whatever, there might be
How do you know?
there might be moving entities on the surface or above the surface of other planets. True, I'll
One
buy
thing I
that.
don't understand, you mentioned earlier that everything is a process of discovery, not creativity.
Yes, that's true. Invention, there's no such phenomenon. You
Okay.
don't sit down and
Well,
with a piece of paper and invent an airplane.
we
You have to
have-
have seen the flight of birds first.
We as humans can construct a perfect sphere, which does not exist anywhere in nature.
Yeah, but what
How
does
did
that
we
mean?
discover a perfect sphere that created or thermonuclear bomb, which is not by nature exist anywhere in the regular world?
Well, getting back to the sphere, you mean with pencil and paper or on a machine?
On a machine, we can construct
Yeah, we can
something that
construct a
doesn't exist in
machine.
nature.
Yeah,
we do it with pencil and paper as well.
Yes, that's true. Yes, with a good compass, right?
All right.
But that's really
And what
good
does that mean? I don't
discover
understand
doesn't
that.
exist in the
It
world,
means
or
that
is
that cannot be
creation.
discovered because
Well-
it does not exist until it does not exist in nature. Therefore, it must be created.
No. The creativity, no, it cannot
I'm not
be.
talking about creativity. I'm talking about the creation of a sphere.
Yes.
All right. Will you accept that it does not exist in
No,
nature?
there are reminders of spheres.
There are reminders.
Yes.
Okay.
And that makes a big difference. We're surrounded by stimuli which generate spherical type thinking, if you want to use that type of
But not original type thinking, not creativity.
Well, I don't know what you mean by creativity. Sit down with a pencil and paper and invent something? Say there ought to be a building that an elevator that runs up a building.
That's good. That's
No,
good.
well, that
We
is
did
not
We
me.
did not invent an elevator.
I
We
see.
discovered it.
No, scientists do not, to their credit, they agree with me on that point. That there's no
Which
such
scientists?
phenomenon, most scientists. You must, in a lab, in order to discover something, you have to try. It's all done empirically.
Someone had the idea first.
Well, for instance, no.
Check
If
it.
you wanted to find out how much stress a column will take, you have to load it up with sandbags first. You can't sit down with a pencil and paper and calculate it. Then you can do a stress analysis and say
But you have to
twice,
decide to
twice
do
this
that
thickness
first.
and twice the weight. Well, you don't decide. You have to happen upon the need for it. Yes.
And how did Einstein come up with theory of relativity with a chalkboard?
It's based on a lot of, no, it's not just, he wasn't locked in a room with a chalkboard. It's based on a lot of observation through telescopes. You have to look. Everything in science is done empirically. That's what a test lab is.
But somebody had
The
to take
cure
all
for
that.
cancer will come about through an empirical trial and error method. They're trying different things in labs.
Monkeys
every
don't
day.
do it. Worms don't do it.
Yes, they do.
Educated fleas don't do it.
Let's do it.
Let's fall in
right.
love.
All right, we're going to try to take one more call. Thank you
Thank
very much. Hour 25, you're on the air.
Hi, I really think you ought to cancel your tape interview, and extend this for the rest of the callers. Anyways, whatever you do, I have to say, first of all, Mr. Catran, you're about the last person I would want to have planning my future society for me.
What should your future society look
Well,
like?
I don't even want to talk about that.
You're already living in one big,
Yeah,
vast
limited
slum.
time here.
Right. Okay.
You are presenting a religious view here masquerading as science. It's a religion called reductionist mechanistic materialism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a religious belief system.
Yeah.
And you fail to recognize that.
I do.
That is the basic flaw of everything you're saying.
What do you mean by religious? What is your definition of a religion?
I have a broader definition.
What is it?
Well, I haven't gotten it
Oh, I see.
into an aphorism, if that's what you want.
I see.
No, I mean, basically,
Well, what did I say that you object to, specifically?
well, almost everything you've said.
Well, one thing. What did you object to?
Okay.
What did I say that was wrong in your
That the
estimation?
only scientific view of the universe is purely mechanistic.
Well, that's the one that the Sagans and all the astronomers and cosmologists accept today.
I don't care
It's
what-
not my idea.
I don't know how you seem perhaps not to be that well acquainted with the variety of thought that has been put out by modern physicists.
Well, can you give me one example of a non-mechanistic theory in science today? I'd love to hear it. Come on, you're on the spot.
What do you mean an example?
Well, you said there are other theories. It's just the mechanist concept was only one example. Name another.
You know, you're trying to play with words. I'm trying to put out a thought here, and you didn't even let me complete it.
Well,
There
because
are
you
a
can't
number-
complete it.
any-
Go ahead, complete the
Go
thought.
ahead.
Okay, there are any number of modern physicists whose
Name one.
views
Please, let me
urge on
finish.
mysticism. David Bohm, for instance.
Yes. Is he a non-mechanist?
I haven't heard any names coming out
I
of your
think I
mouth
would
this
say,
evening.
Hold it,
Go ahead.
hold
I'm
it.
sorry. No, I can't get him. Let it. It's not true.
Hold it.
All right. Go
Hold
ahead.
it.
All right.
Be quiet.
Okay.
Caller, finish your
Finish.
statement.
Okay, one of the interesting things David Bohm has to say has to do with the concept of objectivity. He thinks that came in about the time that the lens, or objective, was invented and came into widespread use, whereupon we conceived the notion of objectivity, that we could hold ourselves apart from the universe as one does when looking through a lens, or as one apparently does when looking through a lens or objective.
Yes.
That is a fallacy.
I agree. Remember, I said that a wrong way of looking at the universe is that it's made up of two properties, the universe and those of us who are observing it. I agree with that. We are part of the universe. That's true. I agree with you.
Now, you made another statement in regard to people cutting open brains and, they can't find a little man or whatever inside
Right.
it. That's very cute. But if you read the work of a number of the most eminent neurophysicians, etc., you will find that they have come to the conclusion that, in fact, there is something else. There's something beyond what they can get at by operating on a brain.
I've never seen that in any book.
Well, you just haven't looked in the right places.
Really?
Yeah,
I see.
look under
So what you're saying is
Wilder,
something...
Penfield,
I see.
Lashley, Pribram.
Mhm.
There must be others.
So
You have really limited yourself to apparently those authors and researchers who
support my views,
your
right.
own preconceptions.
well, can you think of anything else that it could be? I mean, anything
Well,
non-physical?
apparently, if there's something that does not correspond to what we call physical substance, then we can't put our finger on it.
Well, what are you talking about? I don't. That really.
necessary to
What
have
could
a
it be if
belief.
it's not physical substance?
It's not necessary to have a belief system about it. I don't. I mean, I really don't know what to say about it. What it might.
Yeah, I see. How can we talk about it, even write about it, if it's not a physical
problem
thing?
is, at this point, our state of knowledge is just not advanced enough to make
True.
an absolute decision that we can say that the universe is merely mechanistic substance.
Well, not merely. I'm not throwing it away that way.
Okay,
It's
well,
marvelous.
that is the sum total
And
of it.
yes, it's vast and mysterious. Certainly, I agree with you, and it's beautiful. But I'm not saying it's merely mechanistic.
You see, but you're basing your religious belief system on the decision to accept that view, that the universe is mechanistic substance.
Well, that's what the scientific view is. If you read any definition
I
of
agree
what
that the
scientific method...
scientific view is bad. I have no quibble
All
with
right,
that.
well, good. Well, then that's it. I'm simply
Okay.
quoting the
That's it. So
scientific
in other
method.
words, the current scientific view is the end-all and be-all of knowledge forever, right?
Well, that's true. I agree with you there.
That's been thought many times previously.
Absolutely, yes. Today's scientific laws are to be broken tomorrow. I agree with that. And I feel that the square root of 9 is not always 3, too, in other ways of looking at it.
Are you an absolute determinist?
Well, I find myself forced in that direction, although it sounds so terrible to you.
Sounds like
How else? Hmm?
I mean, it was very interesting. He said that there is no such thing as random. Random is only a pattern we don't understand.
Right. Isn't that
And
true?
That's entirely in conflict with quantum mechanics. Entirely.
No, I think that computers very soon will be able to predict the exact landing spot of any so-called random phenomena. As I said, the example I gave was the balls, 100 steel balls dropped on a table. There are many
Maybe
factors
that's
involved.
a macroscopic phenomenon.
Pardon me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That may be, but that's still a macroscopic phenomenon.
Well, what else is there? I don't understand your language.
Well, what does that have to do with quantum physics?
Oh, I see. Well, quantum physics deals with particles. What do you think it deals
What we
with?
call particles.
Well, they're
What
particles.
they are.
They wouldn't affect our instruments if they weren't particles.
They what?
They would not affect our measuring instruments if they weren't particles.
That's a very simplistic reductionistic view.
Oh, my gosh. I've been hearing that all night.
Simplify it the way that modern physics...
Do you disagree?
Well,
sometimes they behave as if particles, sometimes they behave as if waves. What they actually are in the ultimate sense of the meaning of that word, we don't know. We can only describe what we get from measurements and observation.
Well, that's true. But our measurements and observation, we're using very physical instruments, mechanistic instruments, to measure these phenomena.
That's right. Maybe that's the inherent flaw, the
Well, what-
inherent limitation.
Yeah, but that, I hate to sound stuffy, but what else could there be besides a measuring instrument that's made up
So in
of
other words,
material?
you're saying that we have to limit our views, our possible conceptions of reality to what mechanical instruments we're able to devise.
Well, no. The kind of magic you're looking for, and I use that
Looking
term.
for magic.
Well, the kind of universe that you may be thinking about is also true. If you took a high-speed camera and aimed it out into space which appears to be nothing, I'm talking about very high speed, say a couple of billion frames per second, you probably will pick up big chunks of iron or material floating by. There is another universe that moves in another time sense. That's also mechanical, but it's a very kind of sophisticated mechanics. It's not just merely mechanistic.
Okay,
Where you're going.
thank you for calling. Well, I'm torn.
I know you had a bad time with me. I know
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm sorry, you did.
Let's stay with it. Let's do it.
You want to do it?
Let's do it.
Well, let's do it then.
Scrub the tape, Bert. We're going to stay with the phones. This is hour 25, KPFK in Los Angeles. Our guest.
You guys are bad at me, I can tell. I shouldn't have walked in here in the first place. I'm in the den of the enemy. Okay, go ahead.
The only enemy
Science
that you
fiction, I
face,
meant, yes.
by the way, before we go back to the phones, let me ask about
Back
that.
to that.
Have
There
you
we
read any science fiction?
Well, years ago, I read the old, was it Hugo Gernsback publications? And as I think I told you before, I saved Flash Gordon's and Prince of Aliens for years, and I was interested in the drawing.
You describe...
But very little, yes.
You
I read very
describe
little.
The
I read Omni
ILOS
occasionally.
as science fictioneers. What do you mean by that? I mean people who practice science fiction?
I used the wrong term, I suppose.
No, I'm asking.
No, people
what
who
you-
write and who read and who go to see the science fiction, the
Right.
fanzines, isn't that what you call
Yeah,
them?
that's one of the
yes,
things
yes.
we call them. But
Right.
you describe Sagan and some of the others as science fictioneers? What
No, I didn't say that. In that particular sense, I said the Chuck Berry record on Voyages is a science fiction kind of thinking. That's what I said. Sagan is a scientist.
What
and I can
is
see
science
that.
fiction thinking?
Science fiction thinking is best evidence in movies like Star Wars,
What
which
is
to me
it?
was the worst picture I've ever seen.
What is
Okay.
it? Never mind.
All right, good.
What is it?
What is it?
Yeah.
It is a fantasy, unscientific view of the universe, very childish and very childlike.
I
And
see.
it fosters a lot of hostility and a lot of the good guy, bad guy kind of thinking and values among young people, I think.
I see.
The hero and the heroine and the cowboys and Indians in
And
space and all that
then
stuff.
is
Yes.
this is then how you describe Sagan and some of the others?
No, I didn't.
Absolutely.
No, I didn't.
Absolutely.
I said in that
here.
sense, on the Voyager, the kind of
No,
thinking that
I'm
led to the Chuck Berry records
Carry on
is
now.
science
I'll find that
fictional.
quote.
Okay, it says, and then it goes on to say, this is from your Herald Examiner.
Oh,
article.
great, go
I have
ahead.
this. It says, science fiction and fantasy is all but obsolete. In this day of the computer and the planetary exploration, the genre has become an anachronism. It is high time that it has dragged itself off like the elephant of fabled some
Beautiful.
distant graveyard. I think there's something else about that in here. The idea that I get, that I'm understanding from all this, is that the only...
Science fiction is not science.
Wait.
Okay.
All
right.
Let me finish, and then you
Go ahead.
Because I'm trying to
Yes,
explain
go ahead.
back to you what
I'll
I
wait.
think I'm getting
Fine.
from out of it. Okay, is that the only use that science fiction and fantasy have is a didactic use. They are only there to explain science, and if they don't do that, then they don't belong.
No, I didn't say that. That if
Okay.
they explain
What
science,
is it?
then they're not science fiction anymore.
Okay, what is it that you said?
It's the unscientific projection of today's people, the people of our culture in the future. It's very elementary. Especially a good example of that is in the Star Trek series.
Mm-hmm.
Here are people of today, or this so-called person from another planet. I forgot his name. Dr.
Mhm.
Spock, I guess, is it?
Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock. Dr. Spock is the
Baby
other side.
doctor.
That's right, the child doctor. With all the emotions and the anger and the guile and the revenge and the hatred of people of today, people are going to change in the near future. We're going to have large behavioral centers, I suppose, that will raise children, which is an extension of the present-day
Which is an
nursery.
idea that you like.
No, I know that comes off
That
as a very
comes off-
negative thing, yes.
But that is an idea that you like according to
well,
the
don't
book.
you like it?
Don't I like
Yes.
it?
Wouldn't
Not
you
in
want your
particular.
child raised by skilled specialists rather than some amateur in a hit-and-miss method? It's an extension of the nursery school of today. Today, the nursery school is merely a babysitting.
Okay,
kind of
but we're getting off into
Yes.
something else, though.
Well, very briefly.
so many areas.
You yourself, I would consider you, and I assume you would consider yourself, a rebel, someone who was opposed to the consensus of popular thinking in these fields. Am I correct?
No, I think I'm on the popular side, and
You
on
do?
the scientific side. Yes, I think
The
most
scientific
scientists think mechanistically,
But
and think about a city of the
the
future.
ideas which you raise, I think you would have to admit, are in opposition. Indeed, you spend a good portion of your book pointing out the
Yes.
opposition. The ideas which you have written down here are in opposition to what is called conventional thinking. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know what you mean. I pointed out what I consider a march of events.
Right.
We're moving toward a scientific society. Now, I don't know what you mean by in
Well-
opposition to what.
In opposition to Sagan, in opposition to
Oh, I think
NASA,
Sagan
in
is making a very elementary error in talking about intelligent life on other planets. Yes.
Okay, now, if the child training centers, conditioning centers is what I would have to call them.
Well, you're using the term in a pejorative way.
I deliberately am.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes, I am.
But that's
I
not
am.
fair.
Why not?
All right, go ahead. That's not what I said, though. I didn't say conditioning center.
All
All
right.
right, go ahead.
Now let me back off a second and ask you to describe it as you would have it described.
Well, here it is.
Go ahead, read it. You have it.
Yeah, let's see. Because adults are the problem, our children stand little chance except to continue to deepen and intensify the illness. In a planned society, children would be raised in large centers, microcosms of the ideal environment. Based on the premise that anything can be learned, which you say they can't, which
No,
is
I never
cute.
said that.
Oh, yes.
All
Oh,
right.
yes, you did. Should I show you where it is?
Yeah.
Should I show you right here
That
in the book
nothing
where-
can be learned.
That nothing can be
Yeah,
learned?
show me where that says in the book.
Okay, I will show it to you.
Okay.
It's,
Maybe I
here
meant
it
in
is.
another sense.
Well, another
Go ahead.
sense. That's cute, too. Actually, what you said is that there is no information, no delivery of
That's
information.
different.
That's different
yes,
from learning?
Yes, absolutely. Speech is not a data communication system.
That's
it's
what
an
it
acoustic
says here.
phenomenon.
Then how can you learn things?
Well,
Where does the learning come from?
Why did you
What do
assume that I
learn
meant
with?
speech? Why did you assume I meant speech? That's where
No,
you
no,
made your
no.
error.
I don't know.
I say
No, I didn't say.
I'm
I said
talking about,
delivery of
yes.
information.
I'm talking about, in the Skinnerian sense, a structured environment. You design design an environment to produce a kind of behavior. Certainly, that's being used even with the Schick method today to break cigarette
Yeah, to
smoking.
break cigarettes,
I know,
but not
very,
to teach a
very
guy
trivial
math.
kind of.
Not to teach somebody math, not to teach somebody how to or philosophy or even
Well,
how.
philosophy
how
is
to-
not science. That word should not be mentioned in a scientific discussion. Philosophy is simply sitting in a rocking chair and
You've
speculating
got a
about the
philosophy
universe.
of science. You've been spouting a
Yes,
philosophy
it's a
of science
philosophy
for
of
the
science,
last
but
hour.
that's where it remains. Okay. But you're using the term philosophy. I always think of Greeks walking around in bathrobes, looking up at the
Sure
stars.
do. Let's go back to the phones. Hour 25, you're on the radio.
Yes. Okay. Your guest says, and let's believe it for the time being, that we are the product of our environment. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
And
So
our
your-
genetic endowment, our background, right? Genetic history.
So your ideas, your beliefs, your conclusions are the product of your genetic environment and your genetic endowment and your environment, correct?
Right.
Okay. There are infinite environments to which you have not been exposed, correct?
Right.
So why cannot there be an infinite number of other ideas?
There are.
All right, so then why are you saying your idea explains everything?
I didn't say my idea explains it. My idea, the mechanist structural approach to the study of science, is what scientists are using today. And it does explain most things. It will explain eventually everything.
Right, that you can't tell, because
Well,
you have not experienced everything.
That's
How do
true.
you know your idea will explain everything?
It's not my idea.
The idea
It's
The idea that I'm
ideas
propounding.
that you
right.
are accepting, correct?
Yes. Are you? Then you don't accept the methods
Wait,
of
wait,
science.
I'm
I'm talking about the scientific
talking
method.
about what you're accepting.
Yeah, the scientific method is what I accept. Do you?
And the scientific method with someone else, and all these ideas are someone else's, but you're still accepting them. So I'm talking about your acceptance.
Yes, I can only get them from the books and the contacts that I have made. Yes.
Okay, but there's still ideas that you're explaining and accepting, yes?
Yes. Well, that's the
Okay,
purpose of
so
my
let's
being
talk
on this
about you got
program.
them from other people.
Right.
You're talking them. You're explaining them.
Right. I am.
You have not experienced infinite environments.
I haven't.
A very limited environment is what you've experienced.
Right.
So your explanations are extremely limited, and I can't see how you can say that eventually they'll explain everything.
Right. And so are yours, right?
Never mind mine.
No. I'm saying, but all right, mine.
He has not
Mine.
attempted to
Okay.
say that they would. You
mine.
have.
Mine.
Okay.
Yes. I am simply quoting and promulgating the scientific method, which most scientists accept today.
But
Now, what
most
is there?
scientists like you and like me
Yes.
have been exposed to a
Yes.
okay. You claim to talk about what
Thing that
saying
they-
there's no
I'm
intelligence
saying that
out
something
there.
that Sagan claims and a lot of science.
I'm not talking
SF
about any of them.
Well, wait a minute. Let me answer you.
Only about what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying something doesn't exist out there. I didn't
How
say
do you
something
know?
exists.
Because you
All right,
My
hold on.
opinion.
All right, let's back off. If you do not know, how can you state with such certainty that they are wrong?
I can state with the same certainty that those who state that they do exist. What's the difference?
See, you know, there's a number of other things that you're
Yeah.
doing. for example, is
Wait a minute. Are you saying that I should not state anything with certainty?
I'm saying you should not talk about what you don't know.
I see. And I don't know what I'm talking about.
Now,
You know about it. You are making claim. You claim to know about a lot of things which you, by your own premise, you cannot know about.
What did I claim to know?
You're talking about there is no intelligent life out there.
I'm saying because of the definitions that they use, the
Who's
terminology the proponents of the life and intelligent
I'm
life.
not a proponent. I'm not arguing with those proponents. I'm talking.
Well, then what is
your view. Excuse me. I happen to believe.
Yes.
By the way, I believe
What do you
in your authentic sincerity. Incidentally, I don't think you're a charlatan or anything like that. I believe that you genuinely believe in what you're saying.
That makes
I'm
it
questioning-
even less fortunate,
I'm
right?
questioning that.
Okay.
However, you are extending your conclusions beyond what you could scientifically do. One of the things about the scientific method is that you test all of the relevant variables before you can come to a conclusion. You have not done that.
Well, but I don't think...
No scientists have done that.
I see. But am I allowed to simply point... Am I allowed to simply point...
Hold it, Paul.
Wait,
Go ahead.
finish up.
No.
Okay.
I want to hear you.
All right. Am I allowed to
Paul.
simply point at some statements that the proponents of the intelligent life on other planets have made, and I claim that they are unscientific and invalid in the light of all that we know today in the behavioral sciences? That's what I'm doing. I'm saying that...
Okay, but let's deal with that then.
Yes.
You can say that what they claim is not provable.
No, I didn't say that. I said they're making
invalid.
errors in their
Their
terminology.
statements are invalid.
Right.
That does not, conversely, make your statements valid.
Right. Anything can
Zero.
happen, certainly.
Okay. Now, however, but dealing with that line of reasoning now, that, as I say, I believe you're sincere. I really do.
You said that.
However,
Okay.
I think that the response that you have given to some of the callers reduces itself to this. If you think I'm wrong, can you come up with an alternative? Okay, I think that is an unfair request.
Is it?
For example, if I go to a restaurant, the waiter brings me an egg. I say, this egg stinks. He says, can you lay a better one?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make his egg good because I can't lay a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the form of reasoning you're using with a lot of the callers.
Well, form of reasoning, as you call it, that's not true.
You're saying you're attacking me. Can you come up with an alternative?
No, I'm
You
not.
don't have to come up.
Are you a lawyer? It sounds like you think that way.
He's a drama critic.
Oh, is he? Okay. all right.
No, God, Michael.
Fine. Okay, you gave him away, right?
Drama criticism, I tell you, it's like a tattoo. Once you put it on, you can't get it off no matter how useless
Yeah,
it
you're
is.
stuck with it, right, for the rest of your life.
Among other things, you are.
Some of the callers have nailed me for being a mechanist, and all I said was, is there anything other than a mechanist view of the universe? And they were stopped. They were stopped.
You can't come up with another one. That
Can you?
doesn't mean
Yes.
that a mechanist view is the correct one.
Yes, but then don't criticize me.
Why not? But that's the same way. Now we'll get down to politics. Michael, that's you see, calling me a drama critic is a terrible thing to do. Terrible.
Right. Get your revenge, Paul, but make it move. We've got a full board.
Okay. During the war in Vietnam, there were thousands of people who said this war is wrong.
Right.
We should not be in Vietnam. We should. Okay. So the government says, can you give us some other policy? And many people couldn't. That didn't make the war in Vietnam right because people knew in their guts, in their hearts, in their minds that it was wrong. Because they couldn't come up with an alternative policy, didn't make the war in Vietnam correct.
And
Yeah. Well, what are you doing? I'm totally lost. I don't understand where you're going with this thing.
Just because
What are you trying to
callers
do?
can't come up with another view than the mechanistic one, doesn't make the mechanistic one.
All right. So the mechanistic one is. You want me to concede it? I'm wrong. Fine. Where are you going with this? What do you disagree with about what I'm saying? Aside from what you've said up to now.
I'm disagreeing
specifically.
with insistence on the mechanistic view as the explanation.
I see. Can you, again, I'm going to do with you what I did with the others. Can you possibly conceive of any other system,
You don't
non-mechanistic?
have to come up with another system.
Well, then you're doing the same thing. You're running.
That you're right.
You're running. Right. Give me one
I
example.
don't have to do that.
No,
Okay, all right. You don't have to do that. It's a very convenient way of getting out of it.
I am saying
I know what you're saying.
And of making his own
Those who
point.
opposed the war in Vietnam did not have to come up with another one to say that the war in Vietnam, another policy, another national policy, to say that the war in Vietnam was wrong. And somebody who gets a lousy meal in a restaurant doesn't have to cook one himself
Right.
to know that it's bad.
It's funny, and I enjoyed it too.
And it's correct.
Yes, it's correct. All right.
All
Well,
right.
let
Thank
it
you
go.
for calling, Paul.
Satisfied.
Good night.
Good.
I have a small question. He brought
Fine.
up a point about the knowing what's going to happen in the future. I think I don't remember now exactly where this all came from. This has been
Yeah.
very complicated the last couple of minutes, but
Right.
it made me run for this in the book.
Okay.
Okay. It says here, here on page 61, it
Go
says,
ahead.
"It has never been more important than now that we know where we're going and how to get there. We must educate our children in what nobody knew yesterday and prepare them for what we know is inevitable." Okay?
Mhm.
So my question is, first, if nobody knew it yesterday and they're going to know it, that means that learning is going on. That's the first thing. Wait. The second thing is, how do we know what is inevitable? We can't even talk what's going to happen in 5 minutes. How can we know what's going to happen in a couple of years?
Well, if you buy the argument I made in the book, that's what I'm saying. You know that chaos is inevitable.
Oh, a general inevitability.
Yes, yeah, general
I see.
inevitability.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And the computers will one day be capable of predicting many years ahead, given enough variables and factors. I think eventually we're going to be able to look into the future, like weathermen do on a very crude basis today.
What
That's
about knowing
going to
things
happen.
tomorrow that you didn't know yesterday?
Well, what about it?
Well, isn't that learning?
Yes. Did I say that learning doesn't take place? I mean,
No, but you
certainly
said
learn.
thinking doesn't take place. You
Well,
said memory doesn't
thinking,
take place, and
yes,
you cannot learn
thinking,
without
as you
memory.
use the term, it's accepted by behavioral scientists. It's not just my theory. I'm quoting material that I've read. I didn't create
When you
this
talk
or
about
originate it.
behavior scientists, you're always talking about Skinner, aren't
Well,
you?
Skinner and that whole field. There's a
But
large
his
body
whole,
of
I mean,
work.
everybody that agrees with him in particular.
Well, yes, this is who I'm talking about. Who else should I be talking about?
There are other theories of behavior.
Well, but I don't buy them.
Ah.
These men are technical people. They work in labs. They're working with organisms.
But he's not the only one who works in
No,
the lab.
that's true. That's true. I mentioned him because he is the, let's call him the Karl Marx of the field. Yes, he wrote the Bible.
Okay.
All right, let's go back to the phones. 32.
Is there no support out there? My gosh.
Not...
Hour 25, you're on the radio.
Hello.
Caller, go ahead. You've been waiting a long time. Please,
Nobody
come
there.
on.
Get somebody else.
Okay. Hour 25, you're on the air.
Good evening. First off, I'd like to compliment all of the callers and the guests for being so lucid at this hour of the night. I'm going to have to go a little bit more simple on you because I've been up all day rather. As I, excuse me, follow me if I've missed something here, please correct me. But as I understand it, way back when we began, the guest stated opposition to materials sent with the deep space probes, the Pioneers and whatnot, on the basis that the chances of a organic piece of machinery developing its reacting to its environment in such a way as to produce a space-faring culture was abominably small, and B, if they were, they wouldn't understand what the hell was going on with these greeting cards anyway. Is that more or less...
Well, I didn't say the chances are abominably small because that implies a statistical disagreement. I'm saying that it's not possible. There's quite a difference. Okay. The concept is totally absurd, fallacious, and scientifically wrong from my point of view.
Okay.
From the point of view of behavioral science, right?
Now, why... All right, what we consider to be, fallaciously consider to be intelligence is in reality our method of dealing with our environment and our needs at the moment.
Well, no, it's to put it a little more realistically and structurally, it's the environment's method of dealing with the environment. We are being manipulated, unless you believe in spontaneous generation. Louis Pasteur put an end to that. Nothing generates itself, and nothing begins and moves capriciously about. We are moving because of forces. We are impelled and actually prodded through life, although it appears otherwise.
Okay, now, where systems, where other ecosystems are similar to ours, it is not then possible for the environment to have similar, for the organic machines within the environment to have similar needs, to respond to them in a similar way?
Well, we're talking about communication. You know, right here on the surface of this planet, it's not possible for a Chinese scientist to communicate with an English-speaking scientist, assuming that they didn't know each other's languages, without translators. It's impossible to communicate between languages. It's more impossible, if I may use that term, to communicate between species. You can't communicate with an elephant or a zebra.
Oh.
Now imagine trying to communicate with an organism totally biologically unrelated to anything we can ever conceive of on another planet, if it exists. It would be it's a totally different kind of thinking. It's very difficult to leave ourselves out. We always commit the anthropomorphic error. When you use the term they, you're using the term anthropomorphically.
If just assume for just the wildest moment that there are some kind of creatures on another planet, and assume that they can somehow deal with their environment.
Okay, right.
Somehow deal with their environment in a way that they are successful at, okay? And assume mechanistic, that there is only physical stuff. If a human being lands his spaceship on this planet, he then becomes part of this alien's environment, and as a physical thing is there, okay? And somehow this thing that lives on that planet is going to sense that...
Now, see, from here on, you're introducing divine will.
No.
Yes,
listen to me for just a minute.
Sense, all right.
Sense, and I'm saying sense because you don't want me to say see or hear
Become
or
aware.
feel.
Okay.
Become aware of, because then he's a physical thing who is there in its, and it wasn't there
That
before.
can be. I'll buy
and
that.
It wasn't there before, and just the very fact of his being there is
That
a form
can
of
be.
communication.
But you're missing a connection.
I'm missing a connection, all right.
For the particular message we have sent to be received, whether it's understood or not, as I understand it, would require the other thing, he, she, it, them, whatever you want to call it, to intercept a Pioneer spacecraft. If it lands, the whole thing's going to melt and it's not going to make any difference. It's going to be some part of a mountain somewhere in a billion years, before anyone discovers it. That implies that they would they not then have a hell of a lot in common with other spacefaring?
There you go.
Lack of a
Back
better
into
word.
human terms again. Back into human terminology. You know, if there were two trees standing 10 feet apart and you chop one tree down, the other tree would know it. What scientists have to really investigate is what is meant by knowing. What is knowing? What is knowledge? Knowledge is simply a change, an effect. We keep using the term animistically, like the Greeks did. You're projecting again when you talk about these creatures becoming aware of us and doing something very clever or intelligent. It's a difficult concept, I understand, and I don't understand it myself, to be honest with you. But I know I'm on the right track, and I know the behavioralists are.
Okay, thank you. We're out of time. Thank you very much for calling.
That's it.
This has been a very...
over?
It is over.
Yes.
We're not off the air yet, but I want to say it's been a very stimulating program.
I'm glad of it.
We
Been a hell of an hour, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
And Jack Catran, thank you very much. The name of his
Mike,
book...
thank you very much.
The name of his book is
Yes,
Is There
great.
Intelligent Life on Earth? It's published by Literaven. Let's see, give me the address if you want.
Well,
It's in the back.
The stores have it,
Mike,
but if they
Division
don't
of
have it, they can order it.
Bio-Geocosmological
No, forget
Press.
that. No, back of the title,
Yeah.
the copyright page.
Down in the bottom of the
Box
flap.
5567 Sherman Oaks, California.
$12.95.
$12.95.
Money system again.
Well, that's
Right.
what we've got at the moment. And Jack Catran, thank you for being
Mike.
on the program. Next
And
week,
Mel.
Mr. Harlan Ellison. And I think I can honestly say, for the first time in my career,
It'll be a different show.
it'll be a different show, and it may be not quite as many fireworks as we had tonight. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.